Now, I have some friends who really can't understand Christians at all. They're not Christians, they kind of know the story we believe in, but the people they have encountered who claim to believe this story seem to be such harsh and judgmental people that they find it difficult to understand what the story they believe in is really like. Now, I bet you know some people like that. Some people who have encountered harsh and difficult people that then make it difficult for them to believe in the story of Jesus. And maybe you are someone like that. And if that's the case, I just want to say I'm sorry. I don't understand why you have encountered the story in the way that you have, but I do know that that's not the story you should be encountering. When I first moved to PEI, Prince Edward Island, I purchased a motorcycle. It was a 1994 Harley Sportster Bobber. Now, there had been a few modifications to it, which I really enjoyed, but apparently not everyone shared my opinion. There was one time I remember sitting, waiting for something with my bike in the parking lot when a Department of Transportation guy walks up to me and says, "Is that your bike outside?" I nodded, and he says, "Let's go for a walk." Now, who says something like that? I think maybe he'd been watching a few too many cop shows and he's trying to work on his swagger and tough talk. Regardless, I get up and I follow him out to the bike. Now, as we walk out to the bike, I'm trying to figure out what could possibly be the issue. Did someone run into it? Am I parked illegally? What could possibly be so serious he had to track me down inside this building and call me out? Well, he marches me over to the bike and he begins to point out numerous things that he thinks highway safety will deem illegal about my perfectly safe, very cool, very fun little bike. The interesting thing was, he didn't actually test any of them, but he was very certain that I was in the wrong nonetheless. The handlebars were probably too high, the exhaust was probably too loud, the fenders were probably too short, and the list went on things that he thought were probably wrong and I needed to get changed, even though he wasn't actually checking any of these. Now, safety is important, and I get it. Not everyone does the proper checks on their vehicles before they get in and drive. For example, did you check the air pressure in all your tires this morning, or even do a full walk around your vehicle before you drove? But sometimes it feels like some people are just out to get someone. I once heard a highway safety officer on the radio calling back into dispatch about a truck he had pulled over. He described what was going on and then he asks, "What can I get him for?" And too often, I think this is the perspective people have of Christians. They think we roam the streets looking for people doing something we think is wrong so that we can point it out and condemn them, saying, "You are doing a bad thing." Some people think our whole purpose for being is to point out the wrong of others. Now, I can't blame them for having this perception. Too often we do seem to expect people to be all cleaned up before they begin to associate with a community of believers. And too often we exclude those who are doing things we don't agree with, even when it's uncertain whether or not it's actually wrong. And this is sad, because at the heart of the Christian story is a God full of grace, who loves, welcomes, forgives, and helps to change others. But he changes them in community and with love. We have the one who does everything he possibly can, including giving his own life for us to have us come back to him. Sometimes I wonder what happened, why people have this perception, and where did it come from, but then I realize it doesn't really matter where it came from. It should not be this way, and it's up to those of us who follow Jesus to change that perception, to show the world the true meaning of grace and love. So even if I don't know where it comes from, it is my role to make sure that my life does not give that impression. And if you follow Jesus, it is your role as well. So how are you going to help change that perception?